present how this new book that is coming out today, we are waiting minutely on the electronic release, is intersecting with my own life, and the intersection of these two lifespans is actually these three manuscripts from the convent of Meding, which have made their way across the channel at different points in time. And Chris Fletcher is actually closely related with the arrival of the third of the Meding manuscripts to come to the Bodleian library. Just to give you a very brief background for the full picture, you have to read the book, we are in northern Germany, the area of the Hanseatic League. You have a map of the convents over there, and we are in the period of the 15th, 16th century, an era of enormous religious upheaval, engagement with reform ideas, and at the center of it are the nuns of the northern German convents, financed by the income of the salt of Lüneburg, the richest Hanseatic town in the region. So they have access to all the resources, and the key resource among that all is education. So it's rich Latin education they are getting, and you can tell from looking at these manuscripts written for their own use what high standard these convent schools produced. And they are developing a distinct house style, and Andrew has opened each of the three manuscripts from Meding at a page where you can try to spot the difference, or rather spot the commonality in how devotional material should be presented. And so how it intersects with my own life is that I started looking at material from northern Germany when Nigel Palmer arrived in Tübingen and invited me to come over for a year, 2001, 2002, to Oxford, and said, we have actually fantastic material which hasn't been looked at. And actually, where's Andrew Honey? Oh yeah, over there. Andrew Honey had just worked with Nigel Palmer on this tiny prayer book, and had catalogued it, believe it or not, under incunables on block books, because the nuns used all different techniques to illustrate their manuscripts, and among them were little snippets from printed volumes glued into these manuscripts. So Nigel Palmer, my predecessor as chair in medieval German literature and linguistics, had taken it as a case in point to show how manuscript and printed culture intersect. So I started working on this volume in 2001, and it led to all the rest. And currently one of my doctoral students, Caroline Luchowski, is finishing her doctorate as we speak. She is due to deliver in July. And she has found out much more and really been able to what we knew only to be a prayer book, to be a key document written over a span of 100 years, reworked by generations of nuns. When I first started to work with it, I realized I couldn't edit it without knowing about the liturgy behind it. And the Bodleian holds really the key resource to understand the spiritual life of the nuns in terms of their daily prayers, because this is a handbook that the nuns wrote for the provost of the convent Thielemann von Bavenstedt, who started his job in 1470, and they told him in detail when he has to sing, what he has to sing, and when he has to shut up. So I brought you in your handout, you have one page from the manuscript where it says Virginie's content. So they wrote their own liturgy into it, and I thought this also belongs to my life and the theme of enclosure, because when lockdown hit, Andrew Dunning developed an ingenious way of showcasing manuscripts via visualizer, and that was quite often this manuscript, because it allowed us to teach Gregorian chant to people and to develop something we called singing together apart, where I would be in the crypt of St. Peter in the East. Andrew would be with his manuscript under the visualizer, and people would be around it. So I thought it's too good an opportunity to finally bring these things together. So I thought we could just sing as the nuns have sung it, which would be the cantrix, and the cantrix is the nun who wrote this tiny psalter. She would start and then and sing each verse, and then all the other nuns on the nuns choir, so like up there, would answer with the verses. So I'll just start with Lumen, and then you can come in, and by the 7th repetition you'll know it. Lumen ad revelationem gentium et gloriam plebis tui Israel, nunc dimittis servum tuum Domine, secundum verbum tuum in pace, lumen ad revelationem gentium et gloriam plebis tui Israel, quia video docoli mei, salutare tuum, lumen ad revelationem gentium, et gloriam plebis tui Israel, quod parasti, antefasiem omnium populum, lumen ad revelationem gentium, et gloriam plebis tui Israel, lumen ad revelationem gentium, et gloriam plebis tui Israel, lumen ad revelationem gentium, et gloriam plebis tui Israel, gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto, lumen ad revelationem gentium, et gloriam plebis tui Israel, sic ut erat in principio et nunc et semper, et in saecula saeculorum. Amen. Lumen ad revelationem gentium, et gloriam plebis tui Israel. Thank you for joining in. So here we see really the matrix of the daily life of the nuns, in which they fitted in their prayers and their psalm singing. And if you look here, you can see how the same illustration of the harrowing of hell is copied over then from the liturgical books into the private prayers of the nuns. And you see the little veils with which they protected the initials. So these are costly objects done in a kind of retro style. So we are, as I said, late 15th century, when you could have bought a psalter for a reasonable amount of money, definitely cheaper than procuring parchment and gold and writing it yourself. But manuscript production has become a devotional exercise at that point. And that is really the kind of devotional space the nuns are creating for themselves, composed of auditory, visual impulses and tactile with a parchment. There would be a lot more to say about the Psalter. I've said most of it in my inaugural lecture because Chris Fletcher and Richard Ovenden managed to buy the manuscript in time for my inaugural lecture, so it was carried in by Richard, and at his side was the Abbess of Meding, because the special thing about these convents is that they aren't a historic monument. They are all alive and kicking religious Protestant communities. And this type of continuity is what we tried to highlight in the life of nuns. So if you scan the QR code later today, you should hopefully come to the open access version of the book and can read it. Meanwhile, have a look. Andrew is happy also to turn pages to look at other pages. And I've put out here for you to leaf through my homemade facsimile and also a copy of my inaugural lecture to leaf through. Thank you.